It's time for some extreme social distancing. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Welcome to the focus group. This is John Nash, practicing social distancing from my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett, who is in Philadelphia. I'm in New York, and bringing us all together by the magic of the studio are the boys in the booth, Garrett and Steve. Thank you for being with us today and pulling this all together. I'm upstate, Tim's in Philly, as I said. Grand experiment, not being close to each other, and I actually don't see Tim today, but it's like having a phone call with you, Tim, right?
Well, exactly. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. You sound great. Okay. Better than a phone call, frankly.
I was trying to get part of this. As you know, I'm not, and our listeners know, I'm not much of a tech person. So I for some reason, I can't get part of the tech to work, but hopefully this part's working. So we'll see what happens.
Trixie or spikes on the treadmill running, generating the power for the laptop for the
Well, they were upset. They're upset because they saw lots of movement going around and me getting dressed with a clean shirt on. So they knew something was up. So
do they suspect you're leaving or something?
That's what happens. And they're probably out of kilter too, because usually Wednesdays I'm en route to Manhattan and we're in the studio. So are you sheltering in place, Mr. Nash?
I'm sheltering in place upstate. And hey, before I forget, folks, thanks for joining us today. Focusgroupradio.com is our URL. You could visit there and check out all about me, Tim, all our audio and videos there, including the podcast Unbuttoned, which we do on Tuesdays, and our audio for this show is there as well. So we're in place. It's nice to be in place upstate on a beautiful, clear day. And I was just talking to Bob. You know, it's really sinking in that a lot of us are not going to get sick, but the whole thing is those who do, if the numbers keep climbing, are going to overwhelm the healthcare system, and then you're looking at a big problem. So it's this weird thing my brain does of like grappling with, okay, for the better of all, I just need to stop. It's going to wreak havoc. It's already wreaking havoc. We all know that. So no need to go into that there. You're getting the news. You're getting all of that from everywhere else. But you were telling me something interesting. So Tim has been hearing from folks down at the shore that they don't want folks coming to the shore. If you want to shelter in place, stay away from the shore.
Right. New Jersey doesn't want. They're mad that a lot of PA people and North Jersey people are coming down to the Jersey Shore to their beach houses, and so they're upset by that. But I'm going to head down to Rehoboth probably, and I thought they'll probably be upset about that as well. But we'll see what happens. I finally got out to the store, which was quite funny. I went and there was a couple in the pet food aisle. I went to get some treats for Spike and Trixie. And obviously this guy had not been shopping with his wife in quite a while. So she was in the aisle and she's looking at dog food and she goes and she picks the most expensive one to put in the cart. And he's like, whoa, what are you doing? And she said, I'm getting dog food. He's like, why are you buying the most expensive dog food? He licks his ass half the day. He doesn't care what you're eating. Get the cheap stuff. So I just busted out laughing because I thought, here are all these unintended things that are going to happen with all of this togetherness with the family, which people aren't used to doing. But I did bust out loud in the line when he made that comment to his wife.
So I think it was Sunday, probably. Sunday or Monday. Bob was doing something, and I just said to him, they're going to look back on this period and they're going to declare it the time that everybody decided they needed to get divorced. Well, guess what? The next day in the paper, there was an opinion piece on will your relationship survive sheltering in place? And the author was skeptical that her own might.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of amusing. So there you go.
Well, people aren't used to spending that much time together, I guess.
No. Well, yeah, but hey, look, everybody's used to getting out, going to the office, getting stuff done, running errands, and all those little things we do are all those little tiny interactions we have with everybody else in the world. Even though we don't know them, it's a smile at the, Whole Foods. You say hi to the postal person, there's all those little social interactions that are just not going to be happening. And that's what I'm going to miss the most. Because you and I have actually, for our consulting work and the work we do with a lot of our clients, we're very mobile. We don't need to be specifically in an office. So you and I are kind of used to this, but watching everything else kind of come to a halt is kind of weird. That's why when Garrett and Steve were talking about the city before we went on the air, Garrett rode a train with maybe 2 other people. That in and of itself could be a Guinness Book of World Records, because that just doesn't happen on the MTA, right?
I didn't hear that. So there were that few people on the train. Wow.
Yeah, Garrett said, he goes, Garrett, hey, you can tell us.
Yeah, Monday, I had to stand, but 2 or 3 people were standing. And then Tuesday, I got a seat. And then today, it was me and one other guy on the train.
Wow.
Well, in one car. There are other people in other cars, but it's quickly becoming less and less.
And are the streets as empty? So I'm down in Philly, and they keep showing pictures of Times Square and other places in Manhattan. Is it as empty as they're showing it?
No, it's not as empty. It's like if you walked around at like 6 a.m. or something.
Right.
There's some people, but no crowds or anything like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, but you guys are still open, huh?
Yep.
You really can't do your job from home, though, I don't think. So we appreciate you guys being there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really don't mind.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Well, wait a minute. For all our listeners, Garrett announced that he's doing a new show. He's doing a show for a while on his network called To Be Decided, which I think is a really great name, and I also think it hooks directly into your personality, Garrett, which I love. And that's like to be decided. Things are going to work. This is your personality. We'll take it day by day. Are you a day by day guy?
Totally.
So you're not like
had goals or anything like that.
You don't have to say that, but you're not a big planner. Like I was on the phone last night with a friend of mine, and he was talking about how everything's going to go off the cliff. The banking system's going to collapse. You better have $1,000 in singles. This is the next thing out of his mouth should have been go buy gold, get a gun. I was really like, so I just said to him, are you normally a pessimistic person? And no, but I'm a planner. So I don't know if what that exactly means.
Yeah, I'm not a planner or a worrier. So it's like either side I don't really do.
1,000 in singles. Was you going to the club?
Making it rain?
Right.
I don't know,
come on.
right?
Hey, listen, though, John, many years ago, I told you we had a friend of ours, she said you should have $50,000 of cash on hand.
And she thought that was on the low. Am I right?
I can't even say it without laughing.
But didn't she think that was on the low end? That 50 was,
right. And it should be in the house, like real hard cash. I was like, most people don't have $50, $500, let alone $50,000. Where would you put $50,000 in cash in your house? That's a lot of money. Isn't that a pretty big bundle?
Big fat bunch of envelopes, and it's exactly what you would use a mattress for, right? So there you go. So I got off the phone with this guy, and I was like vibrating, and then I read a Times article, and they started putting all the numbers and how horrible it's going to be, and lockdowns and all this stuff, and I just practically had a panic attack. And then Bob's like, "Okay, it's time to do something else."
You're going to give yourself an ulcer.
So you know what he found? He found this kind of strange documentary on Fort Knox, and how there was all these conspiracy theories about why, is there really that much gold in there? Because the Federal Reserve says there should be, and the Treasury runs Fort Knox. The Treasury says there should be about 1 trillion, but they opened a door one day and this woman showed everybody the gold bricks, but it was only vault number 30. Talk about specific. Anyway, my mind was thoroughly removed from the virus and the epidemic thanks to this documentary about Fort Knox.
Yeah, you need to get a hobby.
Well, and the hobby has to be not consuming the 24-hour news cycle. And so I think that going back to our conversation with Garrett about I don't know that it's a question of not having goals or plans, but I think the worry aspect was what my big takeaway, Garrett, is if you say, I'm not a worrier. Why is it? I bet statistically, people like you land on their feet more often than not.
I don't know. Maybe. Just because you put it in like the aura if you're going to fail or something, or you worry about. Yeah, I'm not sure because I'm not me. I mean, I am me, but I'm not anyone else.
No, that's what I think it is. That is what I think it is. I apologize. I'm missing something here.
What are you missing?
Just a piece of paper, but keep talking.
I don't know what he's missing. So, oh look, we can see the outside there now. I didn't know he was he had windows behind him. So if so, are you guys doing takeout food there? Or are you cooking at home? Are you a cooker?
I'm a cooker, but we did take out last night just to support the restaurants because they can't let
Right.
anyone in, yeah. But we kind of stocked up on food. My girlfriend panic bought a lot of stuff, and then we're kind of going on and off every night.
Cool. Okay.
I've been
Wow.
eating
So
a lot of ramen,
A lot of ramen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
preserving
guys,
my insides with salt.
by the way, when someone tells you to go and like stock up on food, we don't exactly live in like apartments with pantries. Like the pantry. Stock the pantry for the downturn. So I'm gathering, Steve, that you buy ramen. Tim, you've been probably you have stuff frozen. You went to Costco and you said it was a perfectly normal experience, right?
Well, it was, but I went after all the hype. So I went
Shop
on
at.
Monday. I went Monday at about 10:30 in the morning, and it was fine. They had everything. Now there were some prepared meals and things that they usually have. They did not, but they did a good job of merchandising what they did have. And if anybody's ever been to Costco or any of those big box stores like a BJ's or a Sam's Club, uncharacteristically, they had lots of help that was helpful. Usually there's nobody there that can tell you anything, but there was actually somebody corralling people to get in line and get to the register and pointing things out. So that was good.
My takeaway when you said what they did have, they marketed well. Spoken like a true advertising and marketing executive. What they did have, they put on the end caps.
Well, for instance, where they have all those huge counters of meat and fresh meat, because people had bought so much, they put a lot of the vegetables in there. So they filled that in with vegetables, which would usually have chicken or pork or ham or whatever. So they had put strawberries and berries and things in there. And so they did a good job so it didn't look like anything was empty.
It didn't look like the horde came through and chopped them clean. Right.
And the only limit they had a limit on water. You could only have 2 cases of water, but they had pallets and pallets and pallets of water. There was no shortage of that, and toilet paper, and they had all the paper goods. So
up here,
it was all good.
Yeah, I think they're restocking. It's going to hopefully will normalize a bit.
Yeah.
But in the spirit of all this hunkering down and staying in place, on a somber note, on a good note, we want to welcome a new partner to the show. And this partner comes at the precise moment I think that everybody's going to really love trying it out. It's called Blinkist, Blinkist, Blinkist. And basically it works on your phone, your tablet, or your web browser. And it's an app that I want to say cliff notes or synopsizes popular and top line business books. Here's what the paper says. Blinkist takes the best key takeaways, the need-to-know information from thousands of nonfiction books and condenses them down into just 15 minutes that can be read or listened to. So you can download a book, or you could listen to the same book as an audio podcast. I plugged my data into this, and I began going down the rabbit hole. But I am maybe I told you, so I'm going to ruin it. But can you guess like what area that I gravitated to sample Blinkist?
Did you go to career and success, or did you go to, let's see, you either went to entrepreneur, career and success, or maybe bio?
I went to philosophy.
Oh, for God's sakes, why? That's a ticket to the unemployment line.
No, I have had the best time. So
Philosophy.
Last night, the book that I read on Blinkist, or the Blink, which is about 16, they tell you how long it takes to read, too. So it's about 16 minutes long, this one was. And it's by Donald Robertson, How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. And it's about the philosophy of Stoicism as practiced by Marcus Aurelius. It was a really great 16-minute read. It put me in a great frame of mind. It really did, especially for the period we're in at this precise moment. And then I went online and I checked the book out, and the book has got 5 stars, hundreds of reviews. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to want to read the book. So what else do I have here? Tim, I did put a couple things sciencey down. 7 brief lessons on physics. Shoot for the moon. Here's one by Twyla Tharp, The Creative Habit. Jeff Goins, Real Artists Don't Starve. I like that one. That's a business one. And then there's the last one, the Daily Stoic. So you see the direction I'm going. And what did you pick?
I picked the storytelling edge, but what I liked about you and I have talked a lot about this over the years is that we get an awful lot of business books pitched to us, and in the very beginning we read every one, and there ended up becoming a theme that, although each book had a specific point of view, I think sometimes they were very heavy with examples. Yeah. And so what I like about Blinkist is you go through and get what the point of view is or what the point of differentiation is from the various authors in terms of the business case or the business idea or marketing idea, and then gives you a taste as to whether you say, you know what, I want to dig in deeper and I do want to get involved into the real nitty-gritty of the book or get into some of the pretty in-depth examples. And so that's what I love about it, because it does give you the gist of the book, but it also then allows you to decide whether you want to explore more. So we welcome them to the focus group. The great thing right now is if you go to Blinkist, which is BLINKIST.com/focus, that's our code focus. So it's Blinkist, BLINKIST.com/focus. You'll get a 7-day free trial plus a 25% off, or you'll get 25% off your new subscription. And so this is, as John mentioned, and as I've experienced, a great way to consume some books that may have been built up on your list, and allows you to sample them and then decide if you want to go further.
I think they're brilliant. So try it out. Let's give it again. Free trial for 7 days, right? BLINKIST.com/focus. So there you go. What are you going to read next, Tim?
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is
you only need 16 minutes, so.
Well, I like the 4-hour work week.
Oh my God. I was literally just staring at it because I've always wanted to read that, because he did the 4-hour workout, the 4-hour work week. Yep. He's done all these 4-hour book things, and Tim Ferriss. Cool.
That's what I'm
all right,
next.
my friend. What caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Well, in the spirit of the coronavirus, I saw this, and I think you saw this headline too, and I just couldn't believe it. I thought it was The Onion, but it's not. So this is in Italy. The headline is, Mayor bans orgies, threesomes, and gangbangs because of the coronavirus. So as we know, Italy's been hit very hard with the coronavirus. So the mayor in Bugliano, Italy, has issued a statement prohibiting orgies, gangbangs, orgies and gangbangs anywhere inside the city limits. Now, we've all lived in many cities and places. Do you know do you know anyone who holds gangbangs?
I haven't heard that. Okay, no. The answer is no. Go ahead.
Do the boys, do you know if there's any gangbangs held in Manhattan on a regular basis?
I always hear rumors, but I've never met someone that's been to one or knows one. Yeah, but you always hear it's out there somewhere.
It's out there.
A mythical
Garrett,
pot of gold.
Love that.
Steve?
I've not even heard the rumors. I'm lost on this one.
Okay. So Mayor Fabio Buggiani, he said that the additional measure for this, he's calling it the coronavirus containment, he said that he's forbidden any sex between more than 2 people within the city limits and within the territory of Bugliano. And the penalty is if you get caught. Now, they don't say how you're going to get caught, but if you do get caught, you're going to be fined the equivalent of $975 US. And so they said that this then moved on to some people discussing the fact that some of these hookup apps like Grindr, Tinder, or Scruff, and Hornet, they're trying to figure out how to deter people from hooking up on some of these online sites and spreading the virus. And so that's the story then kind of led into that. So the enticing piece was mayor bans orgies, threesomes, and gangbangs, but then it went into, some of these social media apps need to be careful about encouraging people to hook up during the virus.
This is something that's kind of, it's kind of been on my mind for a bit. Like, how are people just going to stop that? I'm wondering, because it's. You think so?
No, is that what you're saying? Are people going to stop hooking up?
Yeah.
Good question. I don't know.
I mean,
I thought about it too, because you figure that people are stuck in their houses, right?
Well,
and they're ants.
And click, 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 click. A little porn, a little picture. Let's make that real.
I'm sure we'll see all the porn hubs, all those sites. They'll do like they do around the Republican conventions. They'll see all this traffic that came up. They'll tell us what states or what counties had the most traffic. And it will all be the red states that everybody was in sneaking watching porn. That's what always ends up happening.
Pornhub gave all of Italy free premium access to their website during the quarantine.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Italy. And there we go, because that is exactly what people think of when they're in lockdown. You're. So that was what caught your eye, the shutdown of orgies and
orgies, gangbangs, and threesomes. And orgies and gangbangs. And I thought, who is this? The 70s? I mean, who?
There you go. You just said what I wanted to say earlier when you said, when was the last time you heard of a gangbang? I literally wanted to say 1972 or 4. And I would be a kid. And we heard that name we remember when you heard that for the first time, you're like, what the hell is that?
The only other time I heard it too, one time Michelangelo Signorelli had some preacher on back in the day, and he was talking about how sex was okay as long as it was done with men and women. And Michelangelo asked him if it would be okay for his wife to get gangbanged. So, as only Michelangelo can ask, and is very defiant.
Okay, for your wife, call now. Garrett, with the cans and the microphones, I think we're all having a serious satellite moment. And Michelangelo. So for me, what caught my eye was actually the fact that nothing had caught my eye except this dreadful news. And so thank you to our friend Pat, who's a listener, who has been sending me little memes and videos, but they're all very John, and they make me laugh specifically. And I'm like, okay, so Garrett, I gave you the links to, or Steve, I think might be doing this, to the two videos. The first one is a woman who wants to replace the happy birthday song that we're supposed to sing twice while we wash our hands. Instead, she's going to insert a line that Princess Leia gives the very first time Luke is introduced to Princess Leia via R2-D2 projecting her in Star Wars. So let's play that one.
General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now he begs you to help him in a struggle against the Empire. I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to you in person, but my ship has fallen under attack, and I'm afraid my mission to bring you to Alderaan has failed. I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion into the memory systems of this R2 unit. My father will know how to retrieve it. You must see this droid safely delivered to him on Alderaan. This is our most desperate hour. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. And clean.
And clean.
Do you know? Can you recite that piece of dialogue?
I can almost. In a nutshell, yes, almost word for word. So,
wow, this is really talk about scary. I'm more afraid of that than the virus.
Talk about extreme distancing, right?
Woo!
Yeah, so Pat knows me. All right, so this next clip, we don't have to play it all, but these two violinists struck up a little show in an LA grocery store in the toilet paper and paper towel aisle. What's unique about it is they're wearing life jackets, and that's because what they're playing is the song that the band on the Titanic supposedly played the night the ship sank. So here we go with that clip. All right, we got that one. But I think it's a funny idea, right? And the last piece is just a JPEG that Pat sent me, and I'm a Star Trek fan as well as Star Wars, so I get the Leia, and see, Pat knows me because he gets both. And this one was a little picture that simply said, Borg cancels invasion. Now, if you know Star Trek, the Borg are this evil race that kidnap people and basically turn them into machines. And the Borg Queen says, no, we're good. Basically, we're going to take a pass on planet Earth while you figure out this coronavirus. So I guess you put the picture up. I can't see on my end. But that's what caught my eye. Thank you, Pat, for catching my eye with that stuff.
The Borg. I thought it was Borg Warner when I saw it initially.
No, they're just a. Well, Stephen Garrett, I know you guys aren't really. You know about the Borg. You know enough about Star Trek that you know about the Borg, right?
Only from people like you referencing it nonstop.
Same, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, I've noted the nonstop part. Check.
It's not really you, but in my life, there's a bunch of people that like Star Trek, and they constantly. I don't really get what the Borg is, but I've heard it many times.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Star Trek, but I know the Borg and Khan, whoever that is.
You're halfway in the club. Very well. Very well done. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that's from Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan. Bill Shatner's trapped on an asteroid, Regular One, as a matter of fact. We're going to stop right there because I know too much of this shit. So, Tim, what's up next?
Business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So born today, March 18th in 1927. She died at 88 years old on December 14th. Lillian Vernon. You know Lillian Vernon?
Catalog maven, right?
Right. She's an American businesswoman and philanthropist. She founded the Lillian Vernon Corporation in 1951 and served as its chairperson and CEO until 1989. The company was sold in 2003 to a company called Zelnick Media and been sold a couple times since then. She went public in 1987. It was the first company. I didn't realize this. Lillian Vernon was the first company traded on the American Stock Exchange founded by a woman in 1987. Doesn't that seem late?
Yeah, 87 it's a while ago, but honestly, you're right. 87 feels late for that kind of thing. Interesting.
Yeah, you would think there would be a woman-owned business way before then. She started the business on her dining room table to help supplement, or a kitchen table to help supplement the family income, and so she started doing this direct catalog business. And she decided to focus primarily on young women and the young women's market. And so she only advertised in like 17 magazine or some of these young girl magazines. And the business took off. And surprisingly, her big break happened when I say surprisingly because if you're watching, you can see some of the items you can get there. It's almost like a Spencer Gifts for the Suburban set, I think, or an old lady. But
my favorite's the one you picked of the Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus.
Mr. and Mrs. Claus sitting in the chair.
What are they, like stuffed
animals? Right. Great for the holidays. So what she did is her big break came. She and her husband decided to do some custom jewelry to sell, and they came up with a magnetized bobby pin. And it attracted the attention of Revlon in 1962, and they bought it, and she was off to the races. Next thing you knew, Elizabeth Arden, Max Factor, and Maybelline had followed suit, wanted to have this magnetic bobby pin. And 1980, she became one of the first American merchants to travel to China in order to expand her business. And then the one good thing about her, as well as doing all kinds of great things with philanthropy and supporting women in business and women entrepreneurs. At NYU, there's something called the Lillian Vernon Writers House, and it's for creative writers. But she's given countless millions of dollars over the years to philanthropy, to women and children's causes. And it goes on with the list of awards. There's probably 2 pages of awards, but well known. The other fun fact is many actors got their start in the Lillian Vernon model catalog. Jason Biggs and Marla Maples, for example, Trump's second wife. They were models in the Lillian Vernon catalog. And that's how they got their start.
I always associate with the Lillian Vernon catalog, there are certain, we got it for a while, but there was a neighbor down the road when I was a kid that used to get it. And that's so Marla Maples you mean she just modeled clothing and stuff?
She was a model for the catalog, sure, and Jason Biggs. Now, people used to get, I remember I had a good friend at Subaru, Karen. Karen, she used to get Lillian Vernon and Lily Pulitzer mixed up, which are very two different brands, yeah. But close enough, right? Two women brands. What I like about this, though, is, she started the whole business on $2,000. She did it to supplement income, and we talked earlier about Blinkist with some of these business books. And I know we have a story later on with Shop Talk about raising capital and so forth. But talk about an entrepreneur and seeing an opportunity and really growing her business based upon fulfilling a need. And so I always love these sort of stories with these entrepreneurs, and particularly women who find a way to navigate, particularly in the 50s and 60s, to make a living. So happy birthday, Lillian.
And just to add to what you were saying, or the question, I think that was the personality of her and the products that kept people hanging on for so long, right? I mean, there is her curation and the kitschy stuff that she picked, and that a lot of people love it. It has a home, but I think there was an attachment to Lillian Vernon, right? Like, because you've got your stuff there.
Well, they said it was very similar to the Sears catalog in terms of you would wait for the book to come, and she realized, similar to LL Bean and a few other of these catalog companies, that if you have to keep the catalog fresh and make it seasonal so that people look forward to it and look through it and see what's new in it. And so she did, again, without having any sort of training in this sort of thing. I always marvel about people who do this sort of thing. She was smart enough to go to China. She was one of the first retailers to go online. She went through AOL online and put the catalog up way before other people saw the need. So good for her. So that was Lillian's birthday today, March 18th.
Is that Trixie or Spike?
Barking?
Yeah. There must be
so the
mailman's in
the neighborhood. They hate the mailman. And it always happens when I'm on the phone. Something happens and they decide they're going to bark. And Trixie can't hear. She's deaf now.
But she doesn't like she knows she doesn't like the mailman, though, right? So
as much as I yell at her, I've got the door closed, but she's got a big mouth. So if you hear my dog, I apologize. I should probably bring her in here with me.
No, she's fine. Hey, as many of you know, Deep Discount has been a partner of ours here on the Focus Group for many, many years, and we're really happy to have them partner with us. You can go and start your shopping experience with them by visiting focusgroupradio.com, looking for their logo. It's the shark. Arr, Sharky the shark. Even with social distancing, you're going to get Sharky, whether you like it or not. It's a pirate, but I think it's a shark. And this month we have a Shark Madness site-wide sale. This is one of our favorite times because Tim and I get to go wherever we want and pick whatever we want. Sometimes it's an LP, a toy, a book. Tim usually surprises me quite often with what he picks in a good way. So Shark Madness site-wide sale. Tim, what did you pick for this month?
So I picked something that's been in the news a lot, and I've never seen it. It's called The Stand, which is out on Blu-ray. Came out last September 2019 at Deep Discount. It's a Stephen King. It's based on a Stephen King book, and it's an epic vision of an apocalyptic future with very few survivors in a plague-ravaged world. And you must decide between good and evil and decide on the fate of humanity. And as soon as the coronavirus started, my friends Mark and Carl down in Rehoboth and a few other people keep talking about, oh, my God, this is just like the Stephen King book or the series The Stand. And so I thought I'll check it out and see if it's available on Deep Discount. Now, funny, because Garrett just put the slide up. When I looked yesterday and we did the deck, it was available. It says right now back order, so we're already driving traffic. So people must be ordering it, but you can get it for $25.95 on Blu-ray.
So I guess this is a good time to learn a new word, verisimilitude, when life imitates art. So in this case, people are rushing in stampedes to buy The Stand because it may be an actual reflection of what's happening with us. So,
yep.
Oh, Bob, I'm good. I sent a message to Bob earlier. So my pick for Sheltering in Place, if you happen to be an animation fan or a kid's cartoon fan that's written really well and that adults will love, I've mentioned this once before a few years ago. There was a TV show back 90s called Reboot, one of the first CG animated shows. And takes place inside a world called Mainframe. The evil villain is Megabyte. Yeah, I like that one. There's also an evil queen named Hexadecimal, which is a coding term. All the DVDs are available as a collection called the Definitive Mainframe Edition on DVD. I have it. I've watched it. It brought back a lot of memories. And one thing it reminded me of, like the old Looney Tunes, the writing and the dialogue, it's kids, but wink, wink, there's a lot of adult stuff going on. So I recommend Reboot, the Definitive Mainframe Edition, especially if you're sheltering in place.
Do they live in the computer?
Yeah, they go to there's one of the characters is called Dot Matrix. There's Guardian Bob. He's a virus hunter. So there it's like takes place in a computer. So it's an ingenious story and a fun, well written thing. Now you look at it, by the way, and it was one of my. I used to look at that and admire how they did it on computer. You look at it now, and it's so vastly looks older than like a Pixar movie. It's crude, but it has a charm to it because it's like you and I when we used to watch Gumby and Pokey. Or the other day you were telling me about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, where Matt was noticing all the fingerprints on the puppets as they manipulate them because it's stop motion. So it's the CG version of that, kind of crude.
Right. Do you think will they ever fix those sort of things? I wonder about that.
No.
Would they? Because you do see, there's certain sitcoms even on TV. I was flipping through the other day and saw Designing Women, and the quality of the film was just horrible, I thought, and that was the late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends on if they shot the show on film or if they shot it directly to video, which they did in the late 80s and 90s.
Right.
If they shot it on film, they could go back to the film originals, and they have to spend a lot of money to scan those in, re-edit the show, do a new soundtrack, but they recreate each episode pristine from the film. It looks fantastic. They only do that for franchises that are probably Lucy has been treated.
I was
like
going to say I Love
Yeah.
Lucy looks fantastic, right?
Most certainly. If you get anything from Deep Discount that's I Love Lucy oriented, you'd definitely be getting a remastered, beautiful print based on film, not video.
Right. So
All
what's
right,
the new
so
release this week?
This is, you and I discussed this last night, and we had a choice to make. We had two different releases, and we felt this was the way to go because it's the complete third season of a show called Crashing. And after I read the description, you'll know, but I'll tell you off the bat, the crashing refers to the main character moving from house to house and crashing on people's couches, except they happen to be famous comedians. So comedian Pete Holmes created and stars in this semi-autobiographical comedy series that debuted on HBO in 2017. So this is season 3. When Pete's wife, fed up with supporting him while he struggles to make it as a stand-up comic, leaves him for another man, he dedicates himself to honing his craft. In doing so, the essentially homeless Pete couch surfs, that's the term I was looking for earlier, through the apartments of several successful comedians, featuring appearances by Artie Lang, T.J. Miller, Sarah Silverman, and a whole host of other people. So it's the third season of Crashing on Blu-ray, on the complete third season. But now that I read, hey, Garrett and Artie Lang, so you knew about the show?
Yeah, he was working with us when he was doing that show.
Have you seen it at all?
I haven't, no, but the people here said he was the best part of it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You hear Luba in the background. Yeah, it was great.
Because it kind of it mirrored his drug abuse while he was being a comedian as he was actually doing it in real life. So it was very true to whatever.
Autobiography. Yeah.
True to life. So, hey, head over to focusgroupradio.com, click on the Deep Discount logo, start shopping away. We'd like you to go through focusgroupradio.com. That way we get credit. And this week I recommended The Stand. John recommended Reboot. And the release this week is Crashing, the complete third season. Right, Garrett?
Thanks, Deep Discount.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with The Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. We are experiencing extreme sheltering in and social distancing. I'm some like 200 or 300 miles away from Tim right now, so I think we're paying attention to the rules. Focusgroupradio.com is the URL you want to visit to learn all about me, Tim, and the show. And you can learn also about Unbuttoned, our Tuesday podcast, about 20 minutes long. All right, so it's time for some shop talk. I found an article that I was really fascinated by, and the headline reads, "Why All the Warby Parker Clones Are Now Imploding." So many of you know Warby Parker is a eyeglass provider. Their whole routine is every time you buy a pair of glasses, I think a pair of glasses is donated to someone in a country that needs them. They became big. They were direct to consumer originally, only online. You would get a couple of samples sent to you. You would pick your frames, send them back. Then they began opening retail stores, which was very popular. But this article talks a lot about the other people that came after Casper, Away, a whole bunch of companies, and how they are now, well, imploding, as the headline provides or implies. But Tim, what do you think of the whole? Well, you and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but what do you think?
Well, so direct to consumer market, so everybody sees all these ads. You hear a lot of them on radio as well. If you're listening to radio, a lot of them are there. And my takeaway, there were a few things we learned many years ago that successful marketers or successful products need 4 things: product, price, place, and promotion. And for me, the overall theme here was a lot of these younger, inexperienced people that had great ideas did a great job of raising capital and raising money, but they had essentially an inexperienced business model or business ethic that it may have done well initially, but then could not sustain itself and ended up losing money. And when you're taking money from a venture capitalist or VC, they want quick growth, but then they want sustained growth and they want their investment back. And so you made the point of, for instance, some of these mattress companies, how often do you buy a mattress?
Once every 10, 15 years, probably, right?
So if you and Bob had purchased a mattress, you're out of the market then for probably 10 years. Or if you bought luggage, we had the founder of Away Luggage on. How often do you buy luggage? And so you either have to try to figure out, do I go into brick and mortar now, even though that's what I'm against because I started as this direct to consumer company and now I'm going to open brick and mortar. Now maybe my numbers don't work. So I read all of these and all the different examples they gave, and my takeaway was it's expensive for customer acquisition. We've worked with some of these companies before.
Yep.
You can't just get an influencer on Instagram to talk about your product or run 1 or 2 ads and think you're going to see the needle move. And I think that's also the danger with a lot of these things is there's not a real easy way for you to get hold. And so I think the hardest part for most people is getting the capital or getting the money. These people seem to figure that out, but then sustaining a business or having a mature, and I'll say a mature business model being that you're going to be able to sustain its stuff is quite difficult. That was my Blinkist version of the 10-page article.
And I'll give you the John Blinkist version. I zeroed in on one paragraph in particular, so the issue that, as Tim was saying, customer retention, branding, all that stuff is a huge part of it. But this guy, so Casper filed an S1 back in January, and that means they were intending to go public. And that meant their numbers were now going to be visible to a number of people and banks and investors that could actually pour over the data. And this one journalist says, "This appears to be Casper's business," tweeted number crunching Atlantic columnist Derek Thompson. "Buy mattress at $400, sell at $1,000, refund, return 20% of them, keep $400 on average, then spend $290 of that on ads and marketing and $270 on admin, finance, HR, IT. Lose $160. Repeat." You tell me that you and I could do that in our business over and over and over, and that's the trap, because those numbers just are not sustainable, especially the cost of. I don't remember when you worked at Subaru, we did actually have meetings with you guys about your cost of acquisition. And you always tried to keep it at a certain number, but it was a variable between what you spent as a brand and what the dealership used to spend. But it was something you were highly aware of, right?
Oh, you're very aware of it. And for instance, with direct mail pieces, you wanted it in the cents and the pennies, not in the dollars, which, was a huge mistake that people did initially with social media with Facebook. There's a famous, one of the big 3 car brands, we only know this because we knew the agency, that they had done a huge campaign and ended up, I think it cost them in the thousands of dollars per car sold, which they'd have been better off giving everybody an additional X amount of dollars to purchase their vehicles. But yeah, no, you're exactly right. And that's the missing piece here of, you and I did a story, I think it was last maybe it was our last show where we talked about what happens to all those returned mattresses.
It was last show. Yeah.
Right. So that's exactly what you're saying here, though, is
Yeah.
that if I buy that mattress for $1,000 and you say you don't like it, they're like, well, donate it or have somebody pick it up. Don't return it to us. We don't want it. So, and they send you another one because you got medium and you wanted firm. So that's obviously all built in there. And it's not a sustainable model. It just doesn't make sense.
So another takeaway I have from this more broadly is that in business in general, if you run a business or you own a store or you're a consultant, growing a client base is not so different than them talking in this article about, creating your brand and getting all your customer loyalty. It takes time. It requires a lot of legwork, a lot of energy, and I bet if you quantify it as they do with Casper in that article, the quote that I said, there's a number attached to it, and we all know this internally, maybe in our own, no matter how small or large your business is, or if you're self-employed, et cetera. So whenever you read something like this, it's what you said at the top of this piece. They figured out the venture side to get the money pouring in, but what they didn't figure out was what all of us do on a daily basis, or they knew it, but they kind of skirted over the numbers. I think that's actually more truthful, to be honest with you. Like, don't worry about it. We're going to sell enough suitcases, and later on we'll figure out our next line extension.
Hey, we'll make it up in volume. Yeah,
what was that, Lucy?
I love Lucy. Well, if you're going to figure all that, you're losing 3 cents a jar. Well, we'll make it up in volume. You didn't figure delivery. You didn't figure tax. Well, if you're going to figure all that.
Doesn't that just sum up this article in a way for all these startups?
Well, that's exactly what it is that, they solve the hardest part, which is, oh my gosh, we've got $10 million to go to China and get these suitcases built.
Yeah.
And we're going to sell them all off and put on an ad on TV. But now, the birds are chirping, and I guess we better open a store somewhere. And then now we need to do a duffel bag or something else, or maybe nylon bag, because nobody, we've hit the market on the hard luggage line. So I don't know. I do admire the people that are able to get the money and use other people's money for success. Yeah,
we've interviewed a bunch, and they're incredible. And hey, the article concludes on a bit of a positive note, meaning they went back and they interviewed the founders of Warby Parker, and one of them just said wryly or smartly with a wry look on his face, he's like, hey, the money's one thing, all these other things are another thing. Scalability and scaling in general is a challenge everybody faces, regardless of what business it's in. And that's actually a good point too, because that's like, how can you scale? Manufacturer can do that, but then you have a human capital thing, and then scaling your concept of how much does it cost to get this brand out there? How much value am I putting on that? It's complex, but I don't think you could do a PowerPoint and have it solved, right?
No. So, but it was a good story. I'm glad you found that it was a good business story.
It was long. We did it. We really did a blink on this, a blinkist.
Well, that's how it should be, and that's how it should be. So, hey, we want to thank all of you for joining us as you're sheltering in place. We're still doing our shows. We plan to do our shows every week. So it's TFG Unbuttoned, which you'll find every Tuesday morning. And, of course, the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash, which you'll find every Wednesday at 1 p.m. East. If you go to focusgroupradio.com, you'll be able to find all of our programming there. Thank you, John. Thank you to Garrett and Steve back in New York in the booth. We want to thank our newest sponsor, Blinkist. If you go to blinkist.com, blinkist.com/focus, you'll get a 7-day free trial and 25% off a new subscription. It's a great resource for some nonfiction books and for some business books and other categories to give you a gist of what the books are about. Also, thanks to our friends at Deep Discount. The Shark Madness sale is going on right now. I recommended The Stand. John recommended Reboot. And the new release this week is Crashing the Complete third season. So everybody, we hope you stay in place, stay healthy, stay safe. Don't text and drive. Arrive a lot.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.